No, that's exactly the point. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that's exactly the point. That's exactly what I'm saying. Look, you guys, I came on here. You know, I don't come on that very often. I love Anna, and I love helping out when I can. But the fact is, if you just listen to what she says, you'll be fine. The reason I'm here is not because we're, to change any of the stuff she said or to even add to it. All I'm saying is I just want to give this context, you guys. Right now, this time, man, America is about to be on sale. The biggest wealth transfer is about to happen, and now is the time to be trained more than ever. It's right now. The stuff we're talking about right now, the highest premium ever is being placed on it. Now, obviously, look, this is not me jumping up and down and getting excited because people are getting sick and because there's this worldwide pandemic going on. Obviously not. There's two different things. One is the actual illness itself, right? We have to put that to the side. I talked about the death rates. It's a real thing. The average flu kills 1 out of 1,000 people. This is killing 1 out of 20 people. Anybody who's older or particularly already has respiratory issues, those people need to get checked out. We want those people to be cool and okay and taken care of, right? That's not by the way, for young people, infants and babies especially, it looks like it's not as bad for them as of yet. But if this mutates, which is one of the big concerns, I mean, who knows? It might start attacking other people as well. So that the thing itself is a problem. But that we have to put that on one side and look at the reaction. The reaction is really what I'm focusing on, because the reaction is just people are going fucking nuts, man. We had this, what was it, the shooting in Greenwood, Indiana last night, a shooting over toilet paper. This is crazy, okay? There's no need for that stuff. America's like the flight attendant, okay? Because I can say this with perspective, being all around the world, having grown up all around the world, everyone looks to America for leadership. America's like that flight attendant. I used to get really nervous about flying. I still do. I get really jittery, and just not the best feeling. I'm past it now because I've had so many other experiences, much more severe than that. But it used to be an issue. And one thing that always happens if you're scared of flying is whenever you hear that turbulence or you feel that or you hear a noise or you see something, you always look at the flight attendants. And what do they need to do? They always need to be smiling and be like, oh, okay, everything's going to be fine. If you look at them and they're screaming, we're all fucked, we're going to die, like, what happens when you see that? You cannot see that when you look at the flight attendant. America is the world's flight attendant, right? So when people look to us, if you look at what happened with the freakouts globally, they just got 10 times worse once we started freaking out. And it's why it's important to keep that responsibility. It doesn't really matter what happens now with the actual virus itself. No matter, even if it's completely cured right now, it's not going to matter. The damage is done. The freakouts happen, and that's why I say when I say America's about to be on sale, this is what makes this time so exciting. It's not just a temporary thing, by the way. I want to be clear about that. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's just a temporary lull, and then everything will go back to normal." No. That's not what's going to happen. Everything is not going to go back to normal. There are entire industries that are changing permanently and irreversibly right now. I'll give you a couple examples in a second. I just want to say, I made a few quick notes here about what you were saying with Zach earlier. This has never happened before, and it's not going to happen again. And I just want to explain a couple things. One thing about the economy and all these fixes that we were talking about earlier, just make it really simple, man. There's only one thing the government can do in any situation, and that's the interest rates. That's the only fix the government ever has, is the Fed, right? So they take the interest rate and they lower it. That's the only fix the government has. Everything else, I'll get back to what he was saying a second ago. Are you back on that feed? You can see my screen? Okay, so this is what you were saying earlier about these different fixes. I'll get to this in a second. Basically, the United States government only has one thing. That's why they call the Fed, the chairman of the Fed, the most powerful person in the world, because he doesn't answer to anybody, or she doesn't answer to anybody. Well, they control the supply of money, so they lower the interest rate. That's why the Fed, all they're ever trying to do, every time they meet, every time they testify, all they ever want to do is raise the interest rate. Think of the interest rate is like money, or is like the flow of money is like the water to put out a fire, right? They want it to be as high as possible. The higher it is, the more water they have, because the more they can lower it. Anytime they want to keep the interest rate as high as possible with a healthy economy, because that way they have a buffer, right? But if the interest rate is low and there's problems, they don't have as much water, and that's a problem. Now look at what just happened. They effectively lowered the interest rate to basically zero, hoping that it would fix things. And what happened? It didn't make any difference. That's the only fix the government has. Now these other things that we're talking about the money, they try to push a bunch of money into it. And by the way, when we hear that it's only, it's going to cost taxpayers, whatever, one person's cost is another's profit. Always remember that. These same people are the ones profiting from this as well. So it's that's a whole other thing. But that right now, they're looking at easily over $1 trillion they put into it. And what difference did it make? Nothing. Nothing. It made no difference at all. Just this, the panic ate right through that. Then they did it again. And now they're looking at basically UBI, Universal Basic Income. Imagine this is in less than a week. We're going from a completely insane idea to, you know what, it basically looks like that's what's going to happen. Let's just start throwing checks at people. Just start giving fucking money out. And all that money, where's it going to go? It's going to get cycled back to the very few at the top. It's just not because of, you know, there is a lot of rigging and stuff going on too that we've talked about, but basically just how economics works. This is not going to solve the problem. It's not going to help anything. The damage is already done, and the tailspin, they're not going to be able to correct that. And all these other things here, the only real fix is that federal rate. When that didn't work, everything else is just a Hail Mary, and let's just try to get things fixed immediately, right now. When you look at those numbers here, go back up to those CBO numbers. I'm not saying what the CBO is saying. They're talking about Great Depression levels of unemployment and bread lines. That's what the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, look at that. I mean, when they looked at the numbers, look at this where it comes out to $7,000 a month income is only going to be sufficed for $1,500 a month through one payment, and then maybe one quarter later. We're talking about during that same period of time, they would normally be making $20,000. They're looking at $3,500 to $4,000, $3,500 to $4,000, and that's even if we go with this basically this UBI payment. I could get into more of the details, and you could check out this link below that I put there. My point though is that all these things are band-aids when it's like heart surgery is needed, right? The heart's like and the fundamentals of the economy, the other thing, these are not solid. They haven't been solid. Look at this article that we put up. 96% of the airlines have been using their profits to buy back stocks. I've been saying this for a while. Anna's been saying this. The stock market, when people talk about the stock market, we're only talking about 30 companies, right? So the Dow Jones Industrial Average, we're talking about 30 companies. And when these companies are getting money through tax breaks and stuff like that, they're just pumping it back up and buying their own stock, doing buybacks. And we've talked for a while about why buybacks are such a problem. Also with real estate prices, when you talk about income needs to be about 3 times what a house is worth. Or you can look at the monthly income, 3 times that is what your mortgage payment should be, and 3 times your income is what the value of your house should be. That's why there's a range where housing prices can be at. And when they get to a certain range, or they get close to the top of that range, there's always a correction. For the last 150, 200 years, we've always had a correction of some kind within 5 years. We are almost past that by a factor of 2. We're twice, 2x past that. And every time we go past that, it's always met with interest. On top of that, you look at student debt. This is not me fear-mongering, by the way. I'm not doing what the media does. I'm not saying this is even bad for us, for people who are trained. I'm saying it because it's so exciting. This is the time. We've been talking about this for a while, and we have never seen this kind of stuff happen. And I mean, she's getting deals now that, like, I told her, I said, I want you to come out of this with $100 million. And she was like, what are you talking about? But just in the last week, she's like, you know what? I completely see what you're saying now. People are freaking out. The government's freaking out because they know they don't have to fix. Now they're going to blame COVID. They're going to blame the coronavirus. They're going to blame it for this stuff, but the fundamentals are not that strong. The stock buybacks, this is that New York Times article for the airline industry, several other industries. Where was this great reporting, by the way, before? But again, I'm not going by the CBO numbers, but if you look at the CBO, they're also saying the same thing. These are permanent changes, and these changes, many of them are going to be permanent. I'll give you a couple examples, like I said, about the permanent changes. Look at the movie theaters, the movie theater industry right now. What's about to happen this weekend? How many times in history? Look, you guys go back to my stuff. Go with like my predictions, or I only look at the numbers. I'm a big math guy, right? I look at the numbers. So when I say stuff that's going to happen, whether it's Dubai or whether it's the correction that happened in 2007, the mortgage freeze before happened with the correction, all these things I was 100% spot on, not because I'm some psychic or I'm some oracle, but because you just look at the numbers. Look at what's happening with the movie theater industry right now. This weekend, major movie studios are saying, you know what, we're going to release, look at what happened with Trolls 2. Trolls 2 broke every online record there was when they started saying, you know what, we're going to release movies. One of them is The Invisible Man. This was it was like a big hit. Not a big hit, but I mean it was a hit. And they're going to release that movie this weekend on demand. It's the first time a studio's ever done that, where they're going to take movies that are brand new, that are doing well, they're hits, and they're going to release them streaming. The movie theater industry and the studios have had a huge problem. Movie theaters don't make any money on the movies. They make money on their popcorn and stuff. That's why they charge like, $20 for a Snickers. And what they've been trying to get exclusive rights to these movies, but these movie studios are fighting. They want to milk as much, keep as much, hoard as much of the cash as they can. And right now, based on their preliminary numbers, they're realizing that they can maybe just offer streaming movies. Why do you want to take your kids to the theater and pay $200 for everything, and or at least $100, or you could just pay $25 and stream it as much as you want for a day? And the numbers they're seeing right now are impressive enough to where they're changing the budgets. Check this article out. This is from Time. Will movie theaters survive post-coronavirus? The Wrap says they face an existential threat. This is not temporary stuff. They're talking about this might be that final blow, that whatever happens this weekend, how crazy is this? This entire industry of movie theaters, whatever happens this weekend, a winner is going to emerge. Somebody's going to have more leverage over somebody else, and it's 99% sure that it's going to be the studios over the movie theaters. So the time of movies is going to be limited. And already Paramount is taking the movies that they're making right now, and they're changing the budgeting. They're saying, you know what, based on our numbers, which they're very good at predicting how many people are going to come out and see their movies, based on our numbers, we may not even need to make this movie and release it in theaters. We can just release it on our streaming platform. And by the way, who has control of the streaming platform? Who has control of the audience? Who has control of the fan base? Which is my whole point here. But it's not the movie theaters. It's these websites, these people that are collecting names and emails, and they're building a better relationship than these movie theaters are. How many of the movie theaters you go to, if you go to movie theaters? Last time I went to the theater was to see Avatar, so I don't ever go to the theater. But when you go there, how do they treat you when they go there? Look at this article right here. Can you guys see this? The Hollywood Reporter. If theaters survive, and that's a big if, it will be on different terms. Here's Eric Schiffer, the CEO of the Hollywood equity firm. We're witnessing the single greatest disruption of the film industry in American history. He's talking about this week right now. I don't see how they survive. He's talking about movie theaters. This is not a temporary thing. They're not just going to hop back from this. Look at MMA. This is another thing. We do a lot of MMA fighting. We do a lot of, like boxing and fight promotions. You guys have, this is before Anna's time. We did some deals with Manny Pacquiao and Amir Khan, and that was at our peak when we were doing a lot more of these deals. And with Mayweather Promotions when he had started that. But we still do some off and on. Right now is a really weird time because the UFC, one of the biggest fighters in the world right now is Khabib Nurmagomedov, and he's about to fight a guy named Tony Ferguson. If you don't know that name, you probably have seen Khabib. If you know anything about MMA or fighting, he's like a complete nut from Dagestan, Russia. These guys are crazy out there. It's like, what do they put in the water? They have no water. These guys are completely nuts. You'll see footage of him. His dad brings home a bear and has him wrestle a bear when he's 7 years old. Let me pull that video. Have you guys seen that video? It's like 7 years old, a bear. It's like, who the fuck lets a 7-year-old? It's just, these guys are crazy. It's part of it. He never smiles. He's like he's I'm just a huge fan of this. He's just a complete nut. The reason I never got too much into MMA or cage fighting is because I was always scared that somebody would do to me what he does to everyone. He's just like the Mike Tyson of MMA. Oh, but with Floyd Mayweather's record, he's never lost. Anyway, he's a big deal. And right now, he has a fight coming up, and Dana White, the head of the UFC, is saying, we're going to go forward with the fight, and we're going to honor the 10-person rule. Think about that. The no more than 10 people getting together. Imagine if this happens. It's still at Madison Square Garden, although right before this call, I just checked, and it said they moved the venue, so it's not going to be at Madison Square Garden. It's not going to be in New York anymore. But imagine if it was. They're talking about 10 people in all of Madison Square Garden. Just do the math on that. First, you have the 2 fighters. They each have a trainer. That's 4 people. The referee's 5 people. The announcer is 6. Security, 1 guy would be 7. 2 cameramen, 8, 9. Then they have to have legally a doctor. That's 10 people. That's like nobody else in the entire, no audience, no state, no. Think about imagine like Hagler Hearns or Ali Frazier, Ali Foreman, the Rumble in the Jungle, the Thriller in Manila. Imagine how different those would be if nobody was there, right? This is what we're about to see. We're about to see something. I'm just telling the twins this earlier, like when they are my age, they're going to be talking about this. They're going to be talking about how crazy this was, and this time was so insane. Now, just from the aesthetics view, that's kind of weird, right? That they're going to have fights with nobody there. But here's what's happening with the money side. The only reason they're going forward with this, the only reason we're going forward with our fights, even though nobody's going to be there, is because it still makes sense. It still makes money. And what do these things have in common right now? And people are saying that, oh, this will be over in a few months. Look at what's happened with the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, that they pushed, and now it looks like 15 people got sick from voting, which was corrupt, and it's criminal, and they should be in trouble for that. And look what the election is shaped now because of this. The candidate, Joe Biden was completely out of it, and now it looks like he's going to be the Democratic nominee. Joe Biden. It's like, it's a crazy thing. We do a lot of polling data. One of our companies handles a lot of polling. And there's nobody that was excited about him, or that he's even excited about him. This is a guy who, like, fought for segregation, like pro-segregation, and he's going to be the Democratic nominee now. That doesn't happen. I'm not saying that was strictly because of the virus. There's other things that happen, other factors that happen. We do a lot of polling data, though. This was unseen, and one of the big things that when we were doing polling data is the longer it took, the more people got to know him, or the more time he had as a front runner, the worse his image went. And so they were pushing hard to just get it done, pushing through this. Years from now, people are going to talk about how hard the establishment fought to make sure that he became the nominee. This is, and no matter what happens, this is done now. And this will affect the rest of history. This is not just a short-term thing. But when we talk about the MMA stuff, that's like when we're the lesson to take away from the MMA stuff or from the movie theater stuff is the importance of building your fan base. Anna, are we still there? Can you? Okay, because I thought you were still able to hear me, right? The headphones. Yeah, because my headphones are making that weird noise. I always get that weird noise. Why don't we talk about, before we end, I just want to add to what you were saying about the dermatologist groups right now. So one of the things she's doing with our dermatologist groups is we just added this thing in the last few days. We said, how about this? You guys don't need to come in. You don't have this 2-month or 6-week waiting period, and we can just do assessments over the phone. We can do it with Skype or FaceTime. And we'll just you can see the doctor over the phone, stay in your house. But you know who else gets to stay at their house too? The doctor. The doctor can stay at their house, and it's $150, and we can get this done in the next 24 to 48 hours. We can get you your appointment. If we had 30 appointments like that, it would have been a huge win. If we got 30 appointments like that in the first 2 weeks. So one guy goes out, one of the groups goes out and gets a couple, another one gets a couple. I think it was 3, right? There's 3 or 4. They didn't do that very well. One of the groups, the one that she works with, goes out. You know how many appointments they got in the first week? Over 210. It's still counting. Over 210 appointments. Think about what that does to the math of that business. Based on our numbers, based on what we only went to a segment of their patients, and we went to the worst producing segments. These were their dead clients, the people that hadn't been coming in, and we're giving them this option to do that. Whatever happens moving forward, that is going to be a permanent part of our business moving forward, a permanent part of the dermatology, the ones we work with. This is going to allow us, imagine having a dermatology group, because right now the group is closed, it's shut down, and they're still making anywhere from $7,000 to $9,000 a day, even though they're shut down. Are you hearing that? We still haven't, okay. Right, so they're still making $7,000 to $9,000 a day, and they're shut down because we're able to do these meetings in different ways. Now, that you might say that part of that is only happening because of the issue, but no. Make no mistake. We are going to make sure that we're able to do this and introduce this. And the people who didn't have, what's the difference between the guys who went out and tried to create this with their dermatology clients and they weren't able to, it wasn't a success with them, versus the success she had? What's the difference? This is what it comes down to, those 3 things that she just went over. First, build your fan base. You've got to be able to add that with predictability. Whether it's 3 people a day, 5 people a day, constantly add to your fan base, number 1. Number 2, you've got to have glue. You've got to have love and emotion. You've got to have glue with your fan base, where you have a superhighway of contact with them. All these guys had a dirt road of contact with their people. That's why that wasn't good. And number 3 is that you've got to be able to consistently, when we want to build our superhighway, which is through our emotions. So number 1 is we get in touch with them. Number 2, we love on them. And then number 3 is we constantly build our superhighway. So we make sure that we're engaged, not just in transactions, but in transformations, where we're trying to actually improve their lives. When you go into it and you have those kinds of conversations, we're introducing emotion, we're getting emotional bonding, and then we're constantly creating that superhighway, not that dirt road. Right now, that process of the 5 crowds, I'll pull this back up here, stranger to not a stranger, right? Now they're a potential lead, then they turn into a lead, then to a client, then to a raving fan, a fanatic. They're actually, a promoter, a walking billboard for you. These 5 crowds, the 5 crowds principle, putting this in place, not just with real estate, but with everything else, is going to have the highest premium on it right now. She got offered over $1 million just now out of nowhere to work with one of these other dermatologists when they saw what she was doing. Because right now, America's about to be on sale. Have I said that yet? These companies are going to need this stuff more than anything else. We're going to start seeing companies at pennies on the dollar. It's already happening in less than a week. I've never seen anything like this. The closest thing was 2009. Right now, the deals that she's able to do, and I made a list of those quick 5 to 6, 7, 10 deals we want to just rattle off, just so you guys see that although you're just like, you're not just like a bird dog. Being an Indiana homie is something that you should take really seriously. And it's something, going through the stuff that you don't even, I tell people, even if you don't have the money, to pay to get trained. I know you guys have, and you've already gone through that process with Anna, but even the people who don't, just go through stuff at Big RIA. It's amazing. It's remarkable. You'll be able to change your income and be able to change your income class and create social mobility. Right now, it is absolutely vital that it's done because of what's happening right now. Whatever happens this weekend, whatever happens over the next few days, we're going to have things that are permanently and forever changed. The dermatology groups we work with, the real estate that we've been talking about, the other companies, where she was talking about the recycling and the manufacturing, these deals, these IPOs we're doing overseas. Right now, with the stuff we're doing with our special needs groups, with our special needs heroes, we have the largest escape room company in Bangladesh. We have the largest, we have our human genome sequencing groups, and now that's expanding. We're trying to, I mean, it's going very slow, but we're able to introduce models with these people, and by introducing models to these companies, you're able to finance what your passions really are. Did they say when you're in a crisis, you're in a crisis when something that's being done right now is what was considered impossible just last week. That's what we're in right now. And why, I haven't been working with students very long. I don't very often. I've been doing it very long, but I haven't been doing it very often. Sometimes I go like several years and only work with one student every couple of years. This has to be fun for me. It has to be addictive. And when I work with dickheads and LCs, it just ruins things and I hate it. But you make a lot more money when you work with fewer people and you go deeper with them. You work with them for years and develop like lifelong friendships with these people. It's much better to work with better people instead of more people. This is why what you guys are doing is you want to bring your best version of yourself at this party. Work deeply with Anna. Our goal here, my goal, and her goal is to build long-term relationships with you guys, to be lifelong friends, and to be able to build company after company. The same things we're talking about, the stuff we're doing right now in real estate, that we're training you to do with real estate, we just use real estate as our punching bag to sharpen your teeth. You use that skill and you apply it to everything else, and you apply it to other fields. And it's what you can get done. It's what you can, it's like building your fan base is like the single most important thing you can do. Steve Jobs said that the only thing a business exists to do is to create fans. Right now, doing things like the 5 crowds principle, building the compliance curve, having compliance assets, this is about to be worth more now than it's ever been worth. And it's always been in high demand. This is the one thing that makes you able to buy and sell companies at will and be able to own these companies. But now you're able to leverage that skill and you can do anything. Look at what she's doing right now. I mean, we have been trying for months and months and years to break 300 grand, or not years, but maybe a year and a half to break. She broke 300 grand a couple times, but now she's about to break 500 grand this month. 500 grand, whether it's the surgery centers, the apartment complexes, these deals come to you out of nowhere. And it just revolves around this same basic skill that we talk about. Just, similarity, just keep repeating that and you'll be fine. Now, even with the upcoming sale, by the way, even if it was without that, what's coming, this is the single greatest time to be alive. I was, I mentioned this before when I was in Africa, and I was in Mauritania, which is on the East Coast, on the West Coast, I'm sorry, and this is this tiny little country, and they have this little thing, this little plaque in their airport, that they outlawed slavery in 1980. They were the last country in the world to outlaw slavery in 1980. I've been talking about this ever since I saw it. You've probably heard me say this. It is an amazing thing to think about, that slavery, it's happening, obviously, but it is not legal anywhere. And it's just what a thing this is, where you and I are living in the only time in history where slavery is outlawed everywhere, right? Because slavery basically was legal everywhere. It was happening everywhere. But then it slowly started getting outlawed and illegal. But this is the first time, 1980, we're living in the only time in history where slavery is illegal everywhere. It's just such a great symbol for where we're at. Like, this is the single best time in history. Mankind, humanity, people are good, not bad. There's much more love than hate. There's much more good than bad. And this, I know the media, if you listen to the news, you let that brainwash you. You're gonna think that everyone's a dickhead and a cunt and ready to fucking just beat the shit out of you and steal from you and just be a terrible. That's not the case. People are beautiful, wonderful, and this is the greatest time to be alive. As far as mankind goes, we are the single best iteration of mankind ever. We're more loving, more caring, more nurturing to each other than any other time in history. This is the best time for communication, technology. It's never been easier to help other people and lift them up. It's easier to create movements and to build a business around your movement than ever before. You can build a business around these causes that you're passionate about, the things that we talk about with our special needs groups. We just had one of our kids now, one of our things we're doing with our cold cases. These kids, like a lot of, like with kids with autism, for example, they're really good at pattern recognition, like looking at, when you have those things like 2 pictures, find the difference between the 2 pictures. And this is one of the reasons why we're able to start having them work on cold cases. We have now Anna's You can ask Anna more about this. We have now the single largest special needs detectives for cold cases. They're cracking cold case files. This is just an amazing thing. Like, and all we're doing, everything I'm talking about doing, everything I teach, I kind of used to be embarrassed about this, but you can do all this stuff while playing video games. It's never been easier to make these kinds of changes. And whatever you're passionate about, whatever problem you want to see solved in the world, it's never been easier to do that. Nanotechnologies right now, if you take 1 inch, there's 30 million nanometers in it. We have nanotechnologies right now. We're taking little drones, little snipers that are down on that level, injecting rats with them that have cancer. The nanobots go in, these assassins go in, they attack the tumor, and then they pass to the digestive system. This is happening right now. We look at AI, quantum computing, solar technology. Right now, the biggest transfer of power is happening slowly as we look at solar energy, and energy is really the thing, the biggest industry in the world that changes everything. The reason why everything runs and every country has power versus over another country is because of energy. And when you look at the poorest countries on earth are also the sunniest countries. And as solar technology now is becoming cheaper and cheaper, we have enough sun that hits the earth in 15 minutes to power the earth for 10 days. Where it's just a matter of extracting that. And as that spreads, more and more countries, look what's happening in what was it? We were just talking about, I think it was Senegal, where they just had that dam that was built, and they have so much free energy. They're giving it to their neighbors for free now. And what's happening in those situations, a $500 million project, once they got that now, everything has changed. Every type of industry, whether it's transportation, healthcare, real estate, business, education, as far as their primary, secondary education, that being obligatory, like requiring public education. This lifts people up, and it changes, if you look at somewhere like Africa, you have 38 countries, 1 billion people, and it was cryptocurrencies now. I get really excited. I start talking about a bunch of different things. But when we look at people, as soon as they rise up, as soon as they're able to get power, they move towards things like cryptocurrency, like having their own independence. And what is going to happen with all these people, everything I'm talking about has one thing in common, and that is that they need business education. They need income training. They need entrepreneurs are at the very forefront of all of this. The ability to grow a business, the ability to start building profits, the ability to start having autonomy over one's income, to create social mobility. Once someone is in a free market and they can do that, the opportunities are endless. And in these markets that are booming, like whether it's Vietnam or Pakistan or India or all throughout Africa, this is a time where those jumps are happening. You go to Africa and you see people, everyone's got cell phones and iPads. What they don't have are these phone lines that we've got all over America. They're able to quantum leap. They're able to take these jumps and skip ahead 25, 30 years. This is the greatest time to be alive. 3D printed of human organs, the CRISPR technology we were talking about now, we're going into embryos and taking out the DNA, opening up like a Word document, taking out the parts we don't want. It turns out if you take out 5 to 10 genes, you double human life expectancy. This is what one of our companies is working on. Gamification is changing everything. It's one of the things we were doing. How do we get kids to read through hundreds of stacks of pages and decades-old newspaper reports and witness accounts? Because it's cold case and they're cracking cold cases. This is how we get our special needs kids to get excited about reading when we gamify it, when we say, you're solving a crime. This is just, I keep saying this stuff, man, because I get emotional when I start talking about this, and I just get excited. There's so many great, beautiful, wonderful things happening. The stuff that you're learning from Anna, nobody's doing this stuff. Whether it's Anna, Millie, Zach, Solomon, Vicky, these guys are beautiful. When I say they're changing the world, you guys know what I mean. You know how much our work means. Whether it's not just the special needs kids, that's our kind of cause, because we've been doing a lot about that. We're doing a lot in that area. Whatever your cause is, whatever you're passionate about, now is the time to do it. Start with the buying and selling in real estate, and then just move on to doing the businesses, using business to create the changes that you want to see. The gamification, you sent this note to me about like 10 other examples of this, but I gotta wrap this up here. Look, this skill of business, building your business, it's a single hardest skill to find anywhere. And this is, we've broken it down to a science. Nobody anywhere is teaching this. Take Anna's stuff seriously. I'm not selling anything. I'm just telling you, take this stuff seriously, because it's unheard of. And yes, you can really build that skill, build your business around helping people and creating movements and improving the world. In fact, these are the only people, Anna and the team here around her, this is the only place you're going to learn how to do that. Change the world, be a movement, it really lift people up, spread optimism, love, volunteer, get into it, man, because America's about to be on sale, and the only people that are going to benefit from it are the very rich, very, very rich, and the very well trained. And you can be in that category. You are in that category. Take this stuff seriously, man. You guys are going to love what it does for you and what it does for your life. I love you guys so much. I'm there for you. Let's make this happen, all right? Let's go and get it. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon. Wow, I know I said a few minutes. I'm sorry. It's like, I don't know what it was. I love you guys, man. Thank you so much. You guys are beautiful and great. I love